7:32 right now, and big night tonight. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton expected to kick off the Democratic National Convention in Chicago.
Yeah, 4,000 delegates are gathered for the DNC. So are protesters. Joining us this morning to discuss what Kamala Harris and Tim Walz need to do to keep up their momentum and convince undecided voters is Democratic strategist Trip Yang. So good morning, Trip. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, the Democrats really pulling out all the stops, right? I mean, they have former President Barack Obama, former President Bill Clinton, all expected to make appearances and speeches. How much of an effect do you think this will have on undecided voters?
It absolutely is a tremendous opportunity for Democrats. I myself, before I started my political consulting firm, I've worked on 3 presidential campaigns dating back to President Obama's campaign in Iowa. And so historically, conventions, you get about 4 percentage points a bump up for the candidate. And so it's a tremendous opportunity for the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz ticket to introduce and reintroduce themselves and their policies to the American people. It's a huge opportunity for the Democratic Party.
And it's seemingly, if poll numbers show anything, and some people don't believe the polls, right? But the wind's in their sails right now because we're seeing a bit of a bump for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. So talk about the poll numbers going into the convention.
Absolutely. Polling, the key thing about polling here is that you look at the trend line where the candidate is growing. Kamala Harris, clearly in the last 4 or so weeks since she became presumptive and now the Democratic nominee, her numbers have gone, very much surging uphill. Donald Trump, he's clearly hit a ceiling here. And so polling is very, very important. The other thing you look at is that Kamala Harris's favorables are pretty good. Donald Trump's favorables to unfavorable ratio, not that great. So right now, the win is that Kamala Harris's back.
But there are issues. There are issues that Donald Trump is leading on, immigration being one of them. One of the polls showed that he was up 10 points in the issue of immigration and the economy. So how is she going to make up ground there?
Well, look, you're always going to have opportunities and challenges, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. Kamala Harris polls better on personality, on issues such as reproductive rights, defending democracy. Yes, Donald Trump is going to poll better on certain issues, but that's why you have the campaign. That's why you run with a set of policies, and that's why you provide a positive vision for yourself, for the party, for the country.
Talk about distractions, though, that might be happening at the DNC. There are protesters there protesting against the war in Gaza. How much do you think that takes away from what's happening at the DNC?
I think it's really healthy to have this type of discourse. In the Democratic Party, I'm a Democrat, loyal, long time. You will always have a Big Tent coalition in the Democratic Party. It is a healthy discourse to have this type of conversation about the conflict. What I will say, though, I will say something that's significant is that even amongst the Democratic activist community, Kamala Harris is viewed as someone who has traditionally, or actually earlier on in the conflict, has had a more nuanced opinion. She came out for a ceasefire earlier than most folks in the Democratic Party have. And so, look, you're never going to make everyone happy, but you can give them room and an opportunity to engage with you on these issues.
So all eyes, of course, on Chicago and the convention. So what are some of the key things she has to zero in on, as Hazel talked about in the first question, to bring some of the independents in? Right? I know she's hired key senior advisors, David Plouffe, who ran Barack Obama's first successful campaign, right? There's only 78 days left here, so these 4 days are going to make a huge difference.
Absolutely. You have to provide a positive vision for the country, lean on your strengths. Earlier on in this year, Donald Trump had a comparative advantage over Joe Biden on the age issue. Right now, Democrats have completely flipped the script. Kamala Harris is seen as more vibrant, more healthy, obviously younger. The other thing is you have to lean into key voters of color, Black, Latino, and Asian American voters. Asian American voters are right now 7% of the country's fastest growing electorate, going to be key in winning some of these battleground states like Pennsylvania and Nevada and Georgia.
How important, though, do you think it is that she actually make herself more available to the press? Because there's been a lot of heat on her because she hasn't really spoken to the press as often as former President Donald Trump has.
I think sometimes with these issues, it's more of a matter of quality over quantity. Campaigns, you take a lot of time to assemble a good team, good core message, have to deploy your surrogates. And so right now, and of course, the convention takes a lot of planning as well. So it's really about quality more than quantity. Once you get to the convention, I think you're going to see VP Harris open up a lot more in terms of these media interviews. But at the same time, ever since she announced her VP pick of Tim Walz, she has done a lot of barnstorming across all these states. I know she was in Pennsylvania earlier this week, or I should say in the past couple days. So the direct voter engagement and interaction has always been there.
Yeah, but is it giving the Republican opponent, Donald Trump, fodder, right? Because he's able to go out there during his press conference and say, here I am. I'm also campaigning, but she can't do one of these. She's sticking to a script.
I think that's a very good argument, but every time Donald Trump opens his mouth, there's a very good chance he says something kind of knuckleheaded, maybe something a little bit racial. And so sometimes you have to let your opponent defeat himself.
Now, she does have some other heavy hitters on the celebrity side that are expected to make, well, at least we're hearing rumors that Beyonce, Taylor Swift, possibly making appearances at the convention.
That would be really smart. Look, if someone knows about that, it's probably a little bit above my pay grade.
Right.
But Beyonce and Taylor Swift, I've seen a lot of polling of voters. They have some of the highest favorables of any mainstream celebrity. So any candidate would be very lucky to have them stumping for them.
And there's this idea that there's 4 other celebrities hosting each night, right? Do you know about this?
What?
I know there's a lot of influencers at the convention. This is the first Democratic convention that has actually recruited and organized, engaged hundreds of influencers. Some of them are TikTok, on social media. The Democratic Party obviously also has had a lot of celebrities in the past. In the past presidential campaigns that I've worked on, John Bon Jovi, Bruce Springsteen have often headlined rallies for the Democratic tickets. So, this is part of the pageantry. I think Katy Perry was at a convention a couple years ago. You got to energize and excite your voters. And I got to say, earlier in this year, some Democratic voters were maybe not as energized as, probably we've seen in the past. But right now, if you look at the polling, they're very, very excited to elect Kamala Harris.
And President Biden is expected to speak as well, right?
I think he'll get a hero's ovation.
There you go.
Trip Yang, thanks so much for being with us this
Thank
morning.
you.
Good stuff.